I don't know why I keep getting sick around the holidays. Last year, I had the Rona. Now I have a cold. But I have to do this now because it's the only time to do it. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, as we proceed to give you what you need, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Cody, and it is time, once again, for our end of year top 10 albums list. These videos are like 12 months in the making. Literally, it takes me the full year. I keep track of my favorite albums throughout the duration. I just have a running list. Like, this is actually like my favorites and like what I really spent a lot of time with, and ultimately the music that meant the most to me this year. And overall, I'm very satisfied with the stuff we got this year. We got a lot of big names dropping and a lot of surprises that really like threw their hat in the ring and showed up and showed out. If you have any difference of opinions, feel free to sound off in the comments. Feel free to make your own top 10 list, but like, don't be weird, man. It's a top 10. Don't be like offended by somebody else's stuff, you know? That's kind of weird. But before we get started officially, let's go ahead and list off some honorable mentions. These are some albums that I thoroughly enjoyed over the course of the year, but did not quite crack my top 10. We have 42 Dugg and ESTG, The Last Ones Left. Ari Lennox with Age, Sex, Location. Mariah the Scientist with Intermission EP. Danger Mouse and Black Thought with Cheat Codes. SZA with SOS. Sonder with Too Late to Die Young EP. Vince Staples with Ramona Park, Broke My Heart. Earth Gang with Ghetto Gods. Sabrina Claudio, Based on a Feeling. And Beyonce with Renaissance. Now that we showed those albums a little bit of love, let's go ahead and get right into the top 10. At number 10, we have Denzel Curry with Melt My Eyes, See Your Future. Denzel Curry overall is very consistent when it comes to albums. You can tell that he is growing and evolving as an artist. Overall, he had a lot of great collab choices on this album. Black, JID, T-Pain, gotta give the shout out to T-Pain. And overall, the songs feel very cinematic and it has very vivid imagery. The instrumentals like complement it very well. And it feels like you're in this weird like dystopian spaghetti western type of scenery. I would say my favorite songs off this album were Walking, Troubles, and X-Wing. X-Wing just like got me going. The beat was crazy. Troubles obviously had a very strong feature by T-Pain, and Walkin' probably is my favorite. And I actually had that on repeat for like a couple days this year. Just like that was the only song I listened to. So overall, very proud of Denzel Curry. He keeps killing it. So shout out to you and keep doing your thing. At number 9, we have Dreamville with the D-Day mixtape. Stick has become one of my favorite songs ever. It just gets me going. It gets the people going. Also, that video is probably the best rap video of the year in my opinion. Everybody on Dreamville is just so talented. They're so good at what they do. Every time they drop a collab project, it's like they put the whole industry on notice. Like, nobody is as cohesive as a unit as Dreamville is. Like, all of the artists are obviously immensely talented on their own, but like when they come together, like they show like a synergy that's just unmatched by anybody else. MVP on the mixtape was probably JID. JID had a killer year, more on that later. His showings on Stick and Barry from Simpson really were the standout tracks for me. And if you want to see my full thoughts on this album, I was able to do a reaction to this, so go and check that video out after you finish this top 10 list. At number 8, we have Ella Mai with Heart on My Sleeve. Ella Mai took like a good 5 or 6 years to drop her sophomore album, but let me tell you, it was well worth the wait. Her voice and her energy as an artist is just so beautiful. Really is like the type of girl you could just take home to your mom and be like, yo mom, this is Ella Mai, and your mom would love her. She really would. It's very emotional, as the title of the album suggests. It runs like the full spectrum of R&B moods. You have your fun tracks, you have your ballads, you have your sensual cuts, and overall it was just great to hear her back, man. For me, she is one of the standout artists when it comes to R&B. I feel like she is a leader in this new generation of cats that we got going. I was also able to do a reaction to this, so if you want to see my full thoughts on this album. I would say my favorite songs were A Mess, Hide, Pieces, and How. Pieces had me feeling some type of way. Yeah. I'm gonna say Pieces is my favorite. If you haven't heard Pieces, go and check that out because that song is crazy. At number 7, we have Lucky Daye with Candydrip. Similarly to Ella Mai, how she's becoming one of the pillars on the female side of R&B, I would say Lucky Daye has become one of the pillars on the male side. He never really misses. His voice obviously is very good. The instrumentals he chooses is also very good. This whole album, Candydrip album, basically is slow jams material. If you're on a date night and you need something to play, throw this album on and you'll be good. Overall, I'm very excited to see Lucky Daye grow as an artist. My favorite songs on this were probably Over and Effin' Sound. At number 6, we have Brent Faiyaz with Wasteland. This man is so toxic. But even with the toxicity and the themes that go along with that in this album, it is very reflective and self-aware. It tells the story of either Brent or the character he's portraying on the album, kind of going through the narrative of like doing the city boy behavior and going out and treating women the way city boys treat women. By the end of the album, he has to deal with consequences of that, and they get pretty serious, they get pretty intense. But it's just such a good listen. Musically, I love the motif of the strings and the natural sounding instrumentals. It feels very organic, the way things come together. It sounds like very dignified and classy, but like also manipulative in a way. Like it kind of lures you in, even with like the music and everything. Brent Faiyaz is doing his thing to like charm these women and like get what he wants out of these women, that just to like turn around and leave them aside. But like even like listening to it, you're kind of like sucked into it. So the charm is there for sure. My favorite songs off this project are probably Role Model and Jackie Brown. Role Model, the instrumental to that is, it feels so triumphant. The hard-hitting strings at the beginning and then the way the drums come in, it's so good. It really is. We've come to the top 5. These are my top 5 favorite albums of 2023. And at number 5, we have a sleeper. A lot of people sleeping on it. Amber Mark with 3 Dimensions Deep. In my opinion, this is the most underrated album this year. Amber Mark is probably the least known artist on this list, but her album really is a masterpiece. Honestly, it showed a lot of people up in terms of just like the sheer quality of the music. Like she was able to do this with like such limited resources. This album is about healing and like learning to love yourself and stuff. It goes through a whole emotional journey, and at the end of the album, you ultimately come off like on the better side of that. She also released like a short film that went along with it, and the visuals, considering what her budget was, I thought was really good. It was really well made. The choreography was on point. Every song felt like something new and refreshing. In my opinion, if she had like somebody like Beyonce's budget, like she would get like all the Grammy noms, she would get like all the recognition that all these other artists are. But just because like she's just starting out and isn't quite there yet as far as, I don't know, the funding is considered, like when she gets to that point, it's gonna be something special for sure. And honestly, I'm just rooting for her because like the second she blasts off, she's gonna take over. And when it comes to this project by itself, I feel like this could be a potential launching pad for her, because it really is that good. And if you don't believe me, listen to One, listen to Most Men, listen to Bliss, and listen to Event Horizon. Event Horizon is one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard in my life. At number 4, we have The Weeknd with Dawn FM. And honestly, this dominated the first part of the year. For a while, I was like, when is somebody else gonna drop? Because The Weeknd's just killing it right now. Nobody else really had a project that really matched up to The Weeknd's quality for a very long time, number of months. And I know for a lot of people it went the whole distance. This came out in January, I'm pretty sure, and I know I've seen some people being like, yeah, The Weeknd had album of the year back in January. A lot of people also compared this to After Hours, The Weeknd's previous album. I would say I prefer Dawn FM over After Hours. I just found myself returning to Dawn FM more than I did After Hours. I really love how each song kind of blends into the next. Beyonce also did this on her album, but it really helps make the album feel like a complete body of work, and it encourages like full listens. Like top to bottom, just press play and let it do its thing. My favorite songs on this project are probably How Do I Make You Love Me, Take My Breath, and Is There Somewhere Else? For different reasons though. Like they're totally different vibes, but also they just like, they're really good. At number 3, we have Lupe Fiasco with Drill Music in Zion. This album is just a masterclass in pure rapping skills and ability. Lupe wrote and recorded this whole album in just 3 days. He wanted to do it in like one day to like channel some form of like Japanese art that like honors imperfections or something like that. Overall, still the fact that he was able to put something so coherent and just skillful in 3 days, it just blows my mind. It's crazy. This comes across as one of the most intelligent albums I've ever heard. Lupe puts so much thought into these things. He raps like he's a college professor, which is fitting because now he's teaching a class at MIT. On the production side, soundtrack killed it. When I put out my video, he actually like reposted it, so that was really cool. Definitely a highlight of the year as far as like the channel goes. And even just Lupe. Lupe means a lot to me. He's the artist that really got me into rap. Food and Liquor back in the day was like the first rap album I heard. Lupe always is going to be held in high regard for me. And if you haven't seen my video for this, I was able to do a reaction for this. I gave this album really high praise at the time. I called it one of the greatest albums I've ever reacted to, or I might have said it is the greatest album that I reacted to. I was very caught up in the moment, but a lot of it still holds up because it really is that good of an album. My favorite songs on the album are probably Precious Things and Seattle. Flawless. They're so good. At number 2, we have Metro Boomin with Heroes and Villains. Overall, I feel like this album was the most fun to drop this year. It's just bangers on bangers on bangers on bangers. Metro really assembled the rap Avengers to come and help really drop like what kind of stands alone as far as like producer albums is considered. I thought like the whole hero side, villain side dichotomy thing was super cool. You could hear it with the artist that he chose, and he used this to really balance a message that was based on current events that we've seen, and he used like the artists that were on the album to help tell this story. This is capped off by a touching inclusion of Takeoff on the album, but I really think like when you like sit back and really listen, like you get past the adrenaline of listening to the bangers, and you really like focus on like what Metro is actually putting out there. You get the message of like, hey, let's try to make not only the industry but like this community like a better and safer space for the artists we love. I had a lot of favorite songs on this album, probably Too Many Nights, Creepin', Niagara Falls, and Walk 'Em Down. The features from Don Toliver were out of this world. The Weeknd showed out on Creepin'. On Walk 'Em Down, Mustafa killed that, man. That was really like the moment where like the message really sinks in, and he carried that thing on his back. He did his thing there. And at number 1, my favorite album of 2023, who else? It's JID with The Forever Story. I was looking forward to this album for years, literal years, and when it came down to it, it exceeded all of my expectations. It's like JID's origin story, basically. When he came out with The Never Story, it was really him blasting out of the cannon and just like showing off his skills and saying that like, hey, I might not get further than this. Let me show you like what my skills are. As JID really like found his foundation with that, and then DiCaprio too, as well as like the tons of features he was able to do between now and then, he really found his footing, and it was time for him to be like, okay, you know who I am, but now let me like actually tell you who I am. And that's really what he was doing with The Forever Story. Even on Dreamville, JID stands out when it comes to like his sound and his flow. He just has a skill set that really nobody else can really touch. He brings something new and something we've never seen before when it comes to rap. And what I love about JID is that like he challenged himself to make like every project sound bigger and better and badder every single time. He took singing lessons for this album. He's singing more than ever on this album, and he sounds amazing, and it's really showing off his development as an artist. When I did my Apple Music replay thing, this album was my top album of the year and JID was my top artist of the year. So I spun this thing to the ground. I listened to it over and over and over again, but it really is that great of an album. I love this album so much. If you want to see my full thoughts, again, I was able to make a reaction to this. Go and check that thing out. Favorite songs are probably Cody Blue 31, Dance Now, and Crack Sandwich. Those are probably my favorite. Those things are amazing. Cody Blue 31, I literally cried. So yeah, that is my top 10 through the sickness. I was able to get this video recorded. I really enjoyed like making these videos. I try to go all out for these, and really like it's kind of the culmination of a full year of obviously making music reaction videos and reviewing and just like putting my thoughts out there. This is like the final thing of the year I like to do to just like finish off on a high note. Thank you for rocking with me another year. Obviously, this is my 3rd year doing this. I still have a passion for this, and I still love doing it, and I still love talking about music and giving my thoughts. And I'm still glad that you are here. So thank you for coming out to this one. Thank you for real for coming out to this one, and I hope to see you for the next one.